The number 3 LSU Tigers open SEC play on Saturday with possible revenge. It's probably not possible. It's probably there. All right, real revenge on their minds against a very ticked off Florida Gators team that very well could be playing to save Billy Napier's job. Meanwhile, the Saints could be benefiting from a giant injury bug that's biting this week's foe, the San Francisco 49ers. Does that change our opinion on where we think this game might finish? I don't know. We'll get to that. Tiger Rags Glenn Gilbo is here to talk LSU. Gabe will surprise me with something. Who knows what? And you will have plenty to say about those Saints, I'm sure. In other words, that means it's time to start the Dattitude podcast. Let's do it now.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? Have you settled into your football routine yet? I know you got a little kind of if you live in the New Orleans area or anywhere in Southeast Louisiana, anywhere around here, you got a brief little snippet of what fall feels like. That lasted for about, 6 hours. But we enjoyed it. The humidity's back, and now I hear that it's going to be 95 this weekend. So, great. Just in time for me to go to Tulane, Duke. That'll be fun. I don't know. Anyway, trying to settle into the routine. Week 2 and week 3. Week 2 of the NFL season is here. Week 3 of college football is here. You know what else is here? How about Dattitude? Episode number 413, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Hump Day. Wednesday, September the 10th, 2025. If you don't know this, if you're new, well, thank you for finally finding us. We appreciate it. But if you're new and you don't know or whatever, you're like, who is this guy spewing on and on? I'm your host, Jim Derry, 35 years on the New Orleans sports media scene. I thank you for being a part of the Dattitude family. You know what is special about this show. Today and every day, we are live Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 a.m. Central Time. But that's not what's special. What's special is you talk to us, we talk back, we show your comments here on the air, and we spend a lot of our time on every show just having a chat, you and me and Gabe and whoever happens to be the guest. By the way, the guest today is Glenn Gilbo, Tiger Rag columnist. He is our 33rd. I had to go back and count him. I knew it was getting up there, so I was kind of interested to go find. One of the we're trying to find. Don't get me wrong. We love our regulars. Okay, we love the Doug Moutons, the Garland Gillens, the Mike Detilliers, of course, Mike Detillier. And our own people at NOLA.com, Zach every Friday, Gabe's always on. This isn't even counting Gabe, by the way. There have been 30 since we rebooted, or whatever you want to call it, on March the 1st, 2024. Glenn will be the 33rd different guest that we've had on the show, and I'm proud of that. That's also different than what a lot of other people do. So again, I am proud of that. I don't know how many guests we've had since we started the show back on September of, it's coming up. I got to find the exact date. We started this show in September of 2021. So we're about to hit our 4-year anniversary. This is season 5. We're about to hit our 4-year anniversary. I will find out the date. I think it's coming up next week or the week after. It was somewhere towards the middle. Because remember Hurricane Ida hit? And I didn't start when I wanted to start. So I'll go find that out. Stan Verrett was our first guest on episode 1 way back when. He was an anchor at ESPN then. Now he's just kind of doing his own thing, and I haven't checked out his new pod. But I'm going to do so. All right, what is on today? We told you Glenn's going to come on, columnist at Tiger Rag. He's going to be talking about LSU, but he's not coming on until about 11:45. So Gabe may come on before him, depending on what we get to. That's we're going to spend at least half the show talking about LSU today, and we don't give enough due to the Tigers. I mean, number 3, we can't just talk Saints all the time. We can if we want to, but we're not going to. We're also going to briefly talk about Tulane. Interesting note about the Wave. Their spread has drastically changed since we were on there Monday. By the way, all of the spreads between the three teams, they've all changed significantly. But Tulane's has changed the most. We'll get to that. I'm gonna give you a little teaser. I'll show you what it is in just a little bit. Gabe doesn't know this yet, but I can't force them to do anything. But we're gonna briefly bring up Thursday Night Football again, and I want to make that a weekly Wednesday thing. Again, Gabe would usually come on at the end, as he usually does, but today again, or maybe a little bit earlier. So normally on a Wednesday, it'll probably be the last thing we talk about. Today, it won't be the last thing we talk about. We will probably make a Thursday night football pick. It's a good one this week. Commanders and Packers. Commanders at Packers. I'm looking forward to that one. Even if I don't necessarily have a huge take on it, I do kind of. I'm definitely leaning one way, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Some other things, and we're going to get to our comments as we always do. Here, if you want to comment, you know how to do it. I didn't even tell you that. Whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, type in your comment. I will show it here on the screen. It doesn't matter what it's about. It could be a general sports comment. It can be about the Saints, which is what they usually are. It could be about LSU. It could be about Tulane. It can even be about the Pelicans. Whatever you want to talk about. If you got something to say and you want me to talk about it, put it in the comment stream and I will show it in just a moment. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube page, please do so. We are growing every day. We thank you for that. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, and click the little bell. You'll always know when we're coming on the air. All right. First things first, some things. One thing I love, one thing that just cut it my quick, just pissed me off, I guess. When we talk about this, Gabe and UBN and I in a group chat yesterday. The spitter. There's always a spitter somewhere, right? I mean, somebody's always spitting, it seems like. They gotta cut this crap out, man. There's only one way that you're gonna stop people from spitting on other people. I mean, first of all, it should be common sense. You don't spit on somebody. You're just a grade A jackweed if you spit on somebody. You're a low life in society, in my opinion. That is like, besides the obvious physical harm to someone, I'm not sure there's a worse thing you can do to another man or woman than spit on them. Honestly. I mean, I'm talking about, Gabe's like, besides like physical harm. Okay. I mean, sticks and stones may break my bones, but spitting makes me want to kick you in the crotch. I mean, you're just an asshole. But anyway, Jalen Carter, I wasn't sure he was going to get suspended, but I thought he was going to get suspended. I mean, a $57,000, that doesn't do anything. Oh, I'm so sorry. I will never spit on Dak Prescott again. Get the hell out of here. $57,000? That's like pocket. That's like Gabe taking me to lunch. Now, it's not a buffet, so it might cost them a little bit more. Okay. I mean, because I can eat. The point is, that's nothing. That's nothing to someone like that. Someone who makes millions of dollars. I don't know what Jalen Carter's contract is. I don't care what it is. And whatever it is, it'll be higher the next time he gets a contract because he's young. Don't care. $57,000 is absurd. Does nothing. It's no detriment. It's like, telling a kid, throws a paint bomb on the next door neighbor's house. And you say, you can't eat candy for a week. That's exactly the same as what this is. That doesn't do anything. Saying the NFL needs to, they need to show people what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And you know what's not acceptable? Spitting on someone. Gabe says it's 4 years. It's his rookie contract. 4 years, $21.8 million. $57,000 ain't jack squat in that. Now it's a little bit more than someone like, the person he spit on who's making $60 million a year. But still, you're not going to curb this kind of crap if you allow it to happen. $57,000. Dude pisses $57,000. Get out of here. Anyway, that's my rant of the morning. It just kind of ticked me off when I saw that yesterday. It's not nearly enough. Again, a couple things before we get to the comments. And as usual, I have not looked at a single one. I don't like to look at them until I'm ready to click on them. I like to be surprised in the morning. How's that? I'm using my Cubs cup. My Cubs mug, or whatever you want to call it, my fake Yeti. I actually have a real Yeti I got for my birthday, but this is my fake Yeti. It's Cubs colors. In honor of Anthony Rizzo. News this morning that he's retiring as a Cub. He's going to be a Cubs ambassador. I mean, now let's get real. He's retiring because nobody wanted him. That's where he is in his career, and it's okay. But you're always welcome as a Cub, as a Cubs ambassador. I know you could probably hit better than some of these clowns right now. They can't seem to break the funk that they're in. Anyway, so that's cool. I'm excited about that. And then also news yesterday that as we kind of transition here into the Saints, and you know what, I'm going to bring up my Saints slide. As we transition into the Saints this morning, Jake Haener and Hunter Dekkers is back, y'all, on the practice squad because the Saints need 4 bad quarterbacks instead of 2. I mean, it's way better when you got 4 crappy quarterbacks. You multiply them, you still got 0. 4 times 0 is 0. 2 times 0 is 0. 29 times 0 is 0. 464 times 0 is 0. You see what I do with my Shaw math? If you don't have one good quarterback, you got none. Doesn't matter how many you got. But good for you, Jake Haener, Hunter Dekkers. They'll be yo-yoing back and forth all year long on the practice squad. Yippee-ki-yay. We're excited for them. I mean, that was the news of yesterday. It's better than the news of Julian Blackmon being out for the season that we had breaking news on this show on Monday. I mean, good Lord. Does as you see, the spread here has changed from Monday. Couple of reasons. It was -6.5 San Francisco on Monday, and actually it's been -6.5 for about a month and a half to 2 months. Maybe it might have even opened 6.5. Gabe, if you want to look at that and check, did it open at that when the spreads came out back in May? Might have. It was somewhere right around that. It was either 6.5 or 7. Anyway, it has dropped to 4.5. And the reason why is because, you know, if you're the Saints and you want to have a chance, look, I said the Saints had almost 0 chance to win this game. Well, now I'll give them like maybe a 5% chance to win the game. Why? Because George Kittle isn't playing, that Jawan Jennings isn't playing, and now the word is that Brock Purdy might not play. Everything I'm reading from San Francisco stuff. By the way, I still fully intend to have a segment from the opponent, a reporter from them. I couldn't find one. I reached out to a couple of people. I couldn't get any to come on. So we'll keep trying. We will do that. Gabe says it opened on May 14th at Saints +7. And then it quickly got to 6.5, and it remained there for months until literally yesterday. So it went to 4.5 yesterday. Again, news that possibly this line suggests to me that the odds makers aren't sure whether Brock Purdy will play or not. I think if it was a sure thing that Brock Purdy wasn't going to play, I think the spread would be more like 3. If they were sure he was going to play, I think it would be. I don't think you're not dropping 2 points for Kittle. So anyway, I think that we'll see what happens. You see, we got season rankings on the screen. That's something new we're going to do on Wednesdays. Probably going to bring it up with Zach on Fridays too. We'll talk about it in a little bit. All right, let's get to some of the comments again. But that injury bug gives the Saints a chance now. We'll see. Again, Glenn Gilbo coming on at 11:45 this morning. Gabe will probably come on around 11:30-ish, somewhere around there. Look who's first this morning. Randall's here. Good morning, sir. I used to use that term lightly. Rocky, good morning. And by the way, Rock, I should have brought a picture. I should have made a screenshot. Rocky was wearing a Spencer Rattler shirt proudly at the Saints game on Sunday. I got to give it to you, man. You're a true fan through and through. I love it. There aren't enough true fans anymore. You ain't no fair weather fan. Spencer Rattler shirt on Facebook. If you want to go find him, you probably can. I mean, you'd have to friend him, and he might get mad at that I'm even saying this, but I mean, I wouldn't want someone just like talking about my Facebook page, I guess. So I'm sorry, Rock, if it's not okay, but I wanted to point out that you are a true fan. You were wearing a Spencer Rattler shirt, not a jersey. It was a shirt with a snake on it. It said Spencer Rattler. Love it. Y'all know I don't necessarily. I got a stat coming up on Spencer Rattler in just a minute. But I got to say, that's a real fan that would wear that. Good morning, UBN's here. He'll be on the show on Friday, making our pick'em. Chad Gage, what's going on? Hope everybody's having a great one. Absolutely. Lance Dobard's here. Of course he is. He's a Dat family member. Daryl Hayden, good morning, Who Dats. Brian Cavett, let's go Tigers. Good morning. Who Dat? Who Dat? Daddy's here. Who Dat and go Tigers. Good morning. No, I wasn't late. I was like 20 seconds late. Come on, man. You giving me grief over like 20 seconds? Wow. Y'all tough. Dylan Smith's here. Earl's Picks, good morning. Cecil Evans, happy hump day. Epic battle between the Rat and the Mac. It could happen. Mac Jones. Could happen. Ron Hendrickson, good morning. From the Mississippi Gulf Coast. We're so glad you're here. Or else he's not waiting to make. He's gonna just give me his Thursday prediction right now. Right now. Let's see. David +1#. Grade A Jackweed. That's a new one. You're free to use it if you want. I did not trademark it. I should probably trademark it. Talking about the spitter, Jalen Carter. Daryl Hayden says, if you spit on someone, you didn't get your donkey beat ever as a child. You didn't get anything. I'm not getting into the girl that made spitting famous. Not happening. We're not talking about that here on the show. Already kind of dead. That's enough. Charles, good morning. Can't say the whole show. You got a doctor's appointment. We hope you get through that okay. Paul Laporte. Saints just need to improve week to week. Amen. Adam Varner, good morning. Oscar Calix gives the Saints a 20% chance if Purdy doesn't play. Okay, that might be realistic. I could see that. And there he goes. Rocky says he had to support the Rat. He's all right now. He is all we have. That's for sure. Musette's here. Way to represent, Rock. Should hope Rattler play. Of course, we hope Rattler plays well. Absolutely. Hakeem, big dog. What's up? Daryl Hayden, as UBN should say, undercover UBN. That's right, man. We'll see what he's got for us this week. He's going to be proud. When I show those standings, he's going to be proud and loving it. Jay Tucker Rafferty, good morning. All right, we're going to talk some more Saints a little bit. I got to bring Gabe on, and before we do that, I want to tell you about my friends at Evangeline Securities. So most of y'all know about Evangeline Securities already, but for those of you who don't know, you got to hear it. They're a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. Is that you? Someone you know, someone you love, someone you say, look, I know them. I don't necessarily love them, but I need to help them. They're ready to sell their business, or they're thinking about selling their business. I got to tell them it's time to reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron and Hemelt. And good for you for doing that. That could be your good deed of the day. Nick and Ron will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from their offices, either on Poydras Street or in Lafayette. From there, you will be well informed to begin to make the decision on if you want to proceed. What happens after that? Well, we're not talking about the rest of your life just yet. We'll fill you in more later in the show. In the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right. I told you the other day that I would come back with you with receipts. And I had not gone back and rewatched the game when I was talking about, I had the over-under, I think at either 21.5 or 22.5. I don't remember exactly what. On Rattler's throw into his first read. How many times did he throw to his first read on completions? And I had the over-under. It was either 21.5 or 22.5. I don't remember. And I wasn't exaggerating. I wasn't trying to be a goofball. I really thought it was probably like 23. I went back and rewatched the game. I counted. I'm a sicko. The answer is, by the way, in case you don't remember, 27 of 46. Spencer Rattler is 27 of 46, which is 58.7%, which is not good. Okay. I'm going to tell you why I'm telling you this in just a minute. Not doing it just to bring him down. Telling you why I'm going to tell you why I'm saying this. His passer rating of 70, or 70.4 to be exact, was 27th in the NFL this week out of 32. So you can decide whether you think that's good or okay for whatever. Whatever. 27. He's 27th out of 32. But on completions to his first read, it was actually he actually had more completions to his second read than I originally thought. I mean, to a second or more read, by the way. It could have been, there were a couple of these where he actually threw to a third read. He completed 7 of his 20 passes to someone other than his first read. 7 of, in fact, to show you how few times he actually looked somewhere else, he threw 46 passes. 12 of them were to someone other than his first read. So he threw 34. Well, I take it back, 33, because there was one where he spiked the ball to stop the clock. He threw 33 passes to his first read. To me, that says a lot. That says more than the completion rate, or it says more than what his passer rating is. He has got to change that to become a better quarterback. Okay, and I don't know what the leash is going to be on him. This is now a huge opportunity this week for him. Whereas I thought it was just going to be another offer. He has a legitimate chance, and the Saints have a legitimate chance to win this game. To be realistic, and you look, it's part of the reasons why we put the season rankings. Now, granted, these are season rankings from one game, but I didn't want to use last year's stats because I think one game stats from this year are more, they mean more than something from last year. So the Niners played Seattle last week. Saints had Seattle. Christian McCaffrey's going to play. They had the 10th ranked rushing offense last week. The Saints had the 25th ranked rushing defense. That's actually worse than I thought. But you got to remember they did allow a big run to Trey Benson around the right edge, so that kind of skewed it a little bit for like 50 yards. The Saints defense, they were 3rd in the NFL last week in passing defense. That's outstanding. The Niners. And this goes to show how important Brock Purdy is, because the Niners had injuries last week. I don't remember when Kittle got hurt, but I think it was in the first half, Gabe, wasn't it? Do you know? If you want to look that up, you can. But the point is that even with the injuries that Brock Purdy had last week, the Niners still had the 7th best passing offense in the NFL last week. And a lot of that is, again, most of it's because of Brock Purdy. But the Saints had the 3rd ranked rushing passing defense. That's going to all be key this week. Saints had the 16th best rushing offense. And so to back Spencer Rattler up, although he threw it 46 times, Saints had the 14th best passing offense. Those numbers will have to be better for the Saints, even against the banged up Niners team, because defensively, second drive, UBN saying. Yeah, first half. That is what I was asking. UBN said he had 4 catches already. First drive with a TD. So second drive of the game, Kittle gets hurt, and still Purdy is 7th best offensively. Big deal. And that's why it's a big deal on whether Brock Purdy plays on Sunday or not. Brock Purdy plays, this line should be 7, in my opinion. Because the Niners defense is that damn good, okay? The Niners defense is better than the Cardinals defense. Sorry, it is. And the Saints could only score 13 points against them. Is that going to change this week? I don't know. One thing I thought interesting, Luke Johnson did a film study from the week, and some other people did as well. I don't even remember whether this was from Luke's or someone else's, but I think it was from Luke. I think I read it in Luke's story. But Spencer Rattler and the Saints, I think, expected a whole lot of blitzing just to confuse them. But no, that's not what they got. They got tight coverage, especially on Olave. And that changed a lot of things. How is San Francisco going to are they going to say, you know what, we're going to do our own thing, or are they going to look at the script that Arizona laid out for them last week? Once again, Spencer, and here's a problem. Once again, and I don't have the exact number in front of me. I meant to bring it with me and I forgot, and then it was time to do the show. But once again, Spencer Rattler's second half passer rating was significantly lower than his first half passer rating. And I'm not just talking about, well, they scored 10 points in the first half, they scored 3 in the second. No, not even talking about that. Those things have to get better. He has to make adjustments, and the coaching staff has to make adjustments for him at halftime. You can't just go out and say, okay, the game plan sort of worked, we're doing. No, because the other team is going, they have consistently shown they are shutting off his first read in the second half, and it's been a problem. The only thing that I would suggest not the only thing, but one thing that I would suggest is they picked up the pace. They played a nice pace on that drive where Kamara scored, and it wasn't the first drive of the game. It was actually the second drive. I think I mistakenly said the first drive the other day. But on that drive, they had a fast pace go. They need to play fast for Spencer Rattler to be successful. I think he can be. But you need to see improvement from game to game. You can't see the same thing every week, which is what we saw his last time out. Okay. And again, that's the biggest problem. To me, still doesn't have a big pocket presence. Hence, why were the Saints like 1-2, boom, throw the football? Because Kellen Moore knows he doesn't have a pocket presence. That's the way to combat no pocket presence. 1-2, throw. Also, the reason why, obviously, he's throwing to his first read more times than not. Again, that works for a certain amount of time, but you can't keep doing that. On that final drive last week, on Sunday, he had 10 passes, not including the spike that killed the clock. Not a single look to a second receiver. All 10 passes were the first reads. That's fine for that game. But again, if you're talking about sophisticated defenses and really good defenses, they're going to pick up on that. They're going to know that if they get in a 2-minute drive with the Saints, that he's going to go for his read and he's going to lean on his crutches. Who was his crutch on that 2-minute drive? Now, y'all can blast Juwan Johnson all you want, but go back and look. Who was the leading receiver on Sunday? Juwan Johnson. Who was he looking at a vast majority of the time in the entire second half, but especially on that 2-minute drive? Juwan Johnson. It's going to be that way again. And they almost got Chris Olave killed. You got to get Rashid Shaheed involved. I didn't think Shaheed was involved enough. Kamara's going to have to run the foot. They cannot give up on the run in the second half. All these things. So anyway, these are things that we'll be looking at, things that we'll be talking about with Zach Ewing on Friday, as he will every Friday. We'll have a Saints preview, and I'm going to ask him these questions. Now, he and I kind of had differing opinions. Everyone has a different opinion on okay. Spencer Rattler played okay. I mean, I guess you could say, he didn't play horrible. He was okay. Again, this is a show of realism. This isn't a show of, what kind of fan are you? I'm not being a fan here. Telling you I'm giving you my realistic perception of what I saw on Sunday and what I foresee for the future. Do I think that it was Spencer Rattler better on Sunday than last year? It depends on your perspective. He was better in the sense of, he had better receivers to throw to and he had a real offensive line. But as far as the problems that I've had with him, they were still there. No pocket presence and low vision. When you're just throwing in your first read, and again, that could be coaching. That could be Kellen Moore saying, this is what we're doing. I want you to throw this guy. But I read, talking about the pass to Juwan Johnson that everyone says that he quote unquote dropped. By the way, Jeff Duncan's got a great story out that he wrote from If You Believe in Numbers and the next gen stats and all those things, that the percentage, the probability of completion for the pass to Juwan Johnson that people said he dropped and had to make that catch, that I've been saying before I even heard this number, that would have been a spectacular catch, is what I said. People, you got to make that catch. You get paid to make that catch. You get paid to make every catch. Give me a break. But Next Gen Stats had the percentage rate, the chance of completion at 14.9%, I think it was. There was only one pass the entire week one that had a lower chance of completion that got completed. The entire week, one pass that was completed that had a less chance of being completed, and it was the, frankly, near miracle of the aforementioned Brock Purdy. I don't even remember what the dude's name. I'm sure UBN's gonna text me in a second. The backup tight end, whoever he is, I don't care what his name is. Doesn't matter. You don't have to text me. He came around a Seattle defender and basically stole it. It was almost intercepted, and it looked like it was going to be intercepted. And I don't even know where the dude came from. And he just kind of came around the dude and snatched it for a touchdown. And San Francisco won the game. That was the only pass the entire weekend that had a less chance that, well, I say that. That was the only pass the entire weekend that actually got completed that had a lesser chance, lesser probability of completion than the one that Juwan Johnson, that was ripped out of his hands by Budda Baker when he hit the ground. Juwan Johnson was the go-to guy this past Sunday. He's going to be the go-to guy next Sunday, and unless he's hurt, the rest of the season. In the huddle, on that play, Spencer Rattler said at the podium, I told Juwan Johnson, it's coming to you. It's coming to you. Again, I'm going to my first read. I don't care if somebody's wide open on the right side of the, Rashid Shaheed could be standing on the Essen Saints all by himself. No, I'm going to Juwan Johnson. I got tunnel vision. You got to get rid of that tunnel vision. You're not going to win if you got tunnel vision. Can't do it. Who that daddy says Kellen Moore's got to take the bridle off of Rattler. 100%. I agree, 100%. I said that Monday. I'm going to say it again. You got to let him be him. And I had someone ask me, what does that mean? And somebody else said, we've seen him be him. I don't think you have seen Spencer Rattler be free. I think it's ingrained by the past coaching staff and this one, telling him to be careful. Screw being careful. You got nothing to lose. You got Spencer Rattler out there. You want to see what you got? I want to see what we got too. Let him go. Let him go. I'm going to go through a couple of these here. Leonardo says he feels like Kellen Moore doesn't trust Rattler. I mean, if you're not going to let him do his thing, then you don't trust him. Joey Bosa, Lance says, is going to be a problem. Absolutely. Randall, we're going to get to LSU in just a minute. Glenn Gilbo coming on in about 10 minutes. Earl's Pick says you need a quarterback who could step up in the pocket and scan the field, or you will not be successful. 100%. Lance also says you can't give up on the run. I've been saying that. Jay Tucker Rafferty, got to be more aggressive from the start of the game. I agree. Who that daddy says our offensive line's got to give Rattler more time. I thought he had plenty of time. He got sacked once. I thought he had time. Gabe, you could shake your head no. You could talk. Just say it in a minute, okay? Calm down. You could say it in a minute. I thought he was fine. I thought the O-line was fine, except for Fuaga, who got hurt. I actually thought the left side of the line did a really good job, which kind of surprised me because we know how much problem left guard has been. I thought Radens actually played okay. I'm just going through. I'm not showing all these. We'll come back to them. Who that daddy? Bet you Jimmy Graham would have caught that pass. Okay. Juwan Johnson's not Jimmy Graham. All right. I'm going to bring Gabe on. A couple things I want to talk about again. Glenn Gilbo in 8 minutes. So, Gabe, you got about 6 minutes. Go ahead and start with the O-line.
Only 4 quarterbacks had fewer time to.
You broke up there.
Had less time to throw.
Start over. Start over.
Only 4 quarterbacks had less time to throw last week than Spencer Rattler.
That's misleading, and I'm going to tell you why it is misleading, and I'm going to tell you why it's misleading.
It's next stats that you just.
I
quoted.
don't give a rat's ass. I'm going to tell you why it's misleading. There's a difference. I'm going to tell you why it's misleading. The reason why it's misleading is because he threw the ball on his own within a second and a half, about half the time. In fact, I started keeping track of that, and then I got wrapped up in the other stat, and I never went back to it. So, yes, in the grand scheme of things, he had less time to throw the ball. That's because he was throwing the ball quicker. He was just throwing to his first read because that's the way he was instructed to. So I get where you're going with that, but that's a misleading stat, especially after week 1. Now, if we get to week 4,
I think saying that would have been the second hardest catch to make that Juwan Johnson had is also incredibly misleading.
How is that misleading?
As David pointed out, because there's a much greater chance. There is no chance that the touchdown catch that Isaac Tesla had for the Lions had a greater catch probability than what Juwan Johnson did. There's no chance.
Well then let's don't even talk about those stats then. Whatever. Okay. The point is it's a much larger sample size. You're talking about however many passes there were in the NFL. Let's just say there were an average of, I don't know, 35 per team, and that's probably a higher number than that. I mean, I could tell you right now that that means that there were 1,000 passes thrown in the NFL this week. So I'm talking about there's a much greater sample size than with this number. And the point is that it was a 14-point-something% chance of being complete. Okay, the stats are wrong. Let's bump it up 10 full percent and make it 25%. I mean, you're telling me there's a 25% chance of a player making a catch? It's still ridiculously tough. It was even tougher than I thought it was. The point is people were getting on him.
Grossly exaggerating how tough that catch is to make. If he got, like I said, if he got popped on the way down, I would have completely agreed.
Where was Buda Baker's arm the entire? Buda Baker's arm was on the football, ripping it out the entire way down to the ground. The entire way down to the ground. He got popped by the ground. When he hit the ground, he got popped by the ground. Not only that, again, Buda Baker, one of the best defensive backs in the league, got his hand onto the ball, ripping it out. You tell me who's going to make that catch. I'm not exaggerating. There might be 10 or 15 people in the league that are going to make that catch. 10 or 15.
I would take the over on that.
Okay, well, you'd lose. Moving on. I want to talk about this week, and I want to get your take on Brock Purdy versus Mac Jones. And what do you think the line? I mean, you're an expert when it comes to lines. Sportsbookreview.com. Where do you think this line? If it comes, let's say it comes out on, I don't know, somebody's going to leak it, but let's say it comes out on Saturday that Brock Purdy's not going to play on Sunday. What do you think happens to this line?
That he's not going to play?
I mean, it's already sort of baked in.
I don't see it getting any lower than 3.5.
You think 3.5 is the floor?
I think 3.5 is the floor, and I think 7 is the ceiling.
Okay, so if it comes out Saturday,
it's so tricky.
If it comes out Saturday that he's definitely going to play, do you think it goes back to 6.5, which is where it was?
Yeah, I think it's 6.5.
I think there's a good chance as well. And I got to say that I think just reading between the lines, I think he's going to play. I don't know, but
yeah. So the reason that this is such a weird line, because if this number continues to shrink, the betting public is going to be all over the 49ers at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know if 4.5. Let me actually, while we're talking about this, let me check.
And while you're checking, I will say this. I think that it's and I brought this up when I first talked about the line earlier this morning. I think the bettors, the people who usually have insight, I think they truly don't know, because I think this line is telling me that no one knows. This line is telling me no one knows. The line is telling me that it's truly a 50-50 proposition on whether he plays or not. Mm-hmm. Because again, I think if he wasn't playing, if he is playing, I agree with you. It goes back to 6.5. I think if he's not playing, I'm gonna defer to you. You say 3.5. I say maybe 3, but 3.5. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, if the bettors were sure that he wasn't playing, they would have jumped on this already, and I think it would have dropped at least after the first day, and it hasn't. It went immediately down to 4.5 when word was that he might be injured, and it's kind of stuck there. So I just find that interesting. Usually bettors have some inside information. I don't think they do here.
This is going to be a real litmus test, this line, to see how, and I know the answer in the grand things is they don't think very highly, but this is going to be an interesting test to see how the betting public feels about the Saints and how they view the Saints. Because
absolutely.
If the Saints are continuing to get faded by bettors against a team who's starting Mac Jones, then they must really hate this team. And I actually thought the Saints performed better in week 1 than I expected.
Yeah.
I mean, we were pretty spot on. The bettors, the odds makers were pretty spot on with that line in week 1. So it'll be really intriguing to watch this situation develop throughout the week.
Yeah, I got a couple comments I want to show, but I want to like discuss them in a second. So I got. I'm actually going to bring you back. We're running low, and I know Glenn's going to be on here in a minute, so he's not in the green room yet. But I'm going to bring you back when he's done. If nothing else, maybe we'll bring this up. But I want to. There's a slide that I want to show from LSU and bring you back on, and then I want to talk Thursday night football. But we don't have time to do that right now, so I will bring you back after Glenn's on.
Cool, I'll be here.
All right. We'll see Gabe in a little bit. A couple comments real quick, and again, Glenn's not in the green room yet, but he will be very soon. A couple things. I'm just going to bring these up. Michael Morgan, the 49ers front will give us fits this weekend. That's my problem, and that's why I don't. Again, I'm not going to give a spoiler alert. I'll make my official pick on Friday. But that's the biggest thing. That is the key. That is the number one. If I were making keys to the game and I would put them in order 1 through 5 or 1 through 3 or whatever, people make their 3 keys. That's my number one key. Not even Brock Purdy. Forget about Brock Purdy. The 49ers front 7 will give us fits this weekend. Hang on real quick. I got to type as Glenn's telling me he clicked on the link and I don't see him in here, so I may have to resend it to him. Let's see. A couple things, other things real quick. Rich Marciano, that was a tough catch no matter what metric you want to use. Amen, it was. Who that daddy says he's with Gabe, he should have caught the ball. Okay, should have caught the ball. Let's see. It was not 7. We used DraftKings. It's been 6.5 for months. By the way, Michael, it was 6.5. It's been 6.5 since like the end of May, June-ish. Gabe's gonna look it up. UBN says he doesn't think the line moves more than a point with Purdy out. Okay, well, Gabe's already said he doesn't think it's going to go lower than 3.5. Let's see here. Calvin says it's not about the 49ers. It's about the New Orleans Lions. Did you mean to type in Saints? And I'm not sure what you mean by that. Nowak just posted a great low angle of the DB under Johnson hitting his elbow, which started to dislodge the ball. Buda Baker. That's what I was talking about. Charles Manga says they could lose this game, would not hurt them. Why waste Purdy on the Saints? It's not. Charles, I'm going to tell you right now. If he can play, he's gonna. That may be something you do later in the year when you say, I think we got a good chance to win the division. If he doesn't play, even if we lose, that doesn't play in week 2. They're going to pretend like they're playing the Rams in week 16 for the week 18 for the division championship. That's not going to play in week 2. You can't afford to do that, because if you say he's out, then that means he's going to be in street clothes, and then you can't play it. So you can't do that. Earl's pick, and I guarantee you the Niners aren't thinking like that. Again, if Purdy can play, he's gonna. Guarantee you Purdy wants to play. Earl's pick says, man, I hope Purdy is out, because sadly I think that's our only chance to win. Chad Gage, prediction is 28-10 with Purdy, 20-13 without it, meaning Saints lose. You see, I don't know that it's that. Don't get me wrong. Purdy, the difference between Purdy and Mac Jones is significant. But Gabe would tell you, and so will any other odds maker or better or experienced person that's in this field, a quarterback, even the best quarterback, only changes the line like 3 points, 4 max. And it's more in college. It's more in college than in the pros. Gabe saying Schefter broke the Purdy news 6:07 on Monday. Line moved from, I could tell you this. I've never seen it at 7. I believe you that you're saying it moved from 7 to 6.5 at DraftKings at 8:40 on Sunday. I never once saw it at 7, and I've been watching it pretty closely. So if it was at 7, it wasn't there very long. Anyway, Gabe also says the line got to -5.5 about 30 minutes before the Purdy news. Hang on real quick while I send this. Live TV, baby. Live TV. One's having issues trying to get in the stream. We're going to try to get him in. Yeah, I don't. Again, I'm sorry. I'm trying to do 3 things at once during a live show. Good morning, S. Callie. UBN says if the San Fran scores 17, the game is over. And that's kind of the point. It's kind of the point. Again, I apologize for live. I have to text this. Okay. Again, trying to text and talk to y'all at the same time. All right. Adam Lane says, if I can show, I've had all kinds of issues this morning. My opinion, what Saints have a big game then? Who do I think steps up? I will tell you this, Adam. For the offense to be better, for 17 not to be that magic number that UBN just saying that he doesn't think the Saints can get past 17. One thing that they must do, there's no question that they have to do, is they have to get the ball to Kamara more. Okay, I get that they're trying to be conservative, and the Saints know that they can't Kamara can't touch the ball 25, 30 times a game every game. If it just can't happen. You can't have 12, 13 touches for your best player. And there's no question that Alvin Kamara is still the best player on this offense, in my opinion. I mean, you could say it's Chris Olave if you want, but in my opinion, you have got to have more touches by Alvin Kamara. So at least a bare minimum, you're talking 8 to 10 more touches for Kamara. You know, another thing that I wish I would have gone back and looked at, and I don't know the answer to this, but how many times did Kamara touch the ball in the second half? It's got to be 5. I mean, he only touched it 12 times in the game. It's got to be like 5 because he had more touches in the first. That drive, and when he scored, he had to touch it like 3, 4, 5 times. You can't do that, and you can't beat a good team and not give the ball to your best player. So that's my opinion. That Sue needs to step up more than anyone. Chase Young needs to play in this game. Okay, you're paying him this money. Chase Young has got to play in this game. Randall, this is literally the last tanking comment I'm going to show for at least the next month by anyone, because tanking is bleeping, and I almost said it, bleeping. You can figure out the filth I was going to use. blanking asinine, especially after week 1. We're on pace for the first pick in the draft. The first pick in the draft doesn't do you jack squat. Don't type that in again. And anybody else out there who wants to talk about tank, and I know there are only a bare few that are that stupid to think that that's a good idea. Because let me tell you something. If you think in week 16 tanking's a good idea, you're an idiot. That's the only thing I can call you is an idiot. It is what it is. Tanking does nothing but make you a loser. I bet you Gabe Henderson's glad that the Texans didn't tank. What was that, 3 years ago? I mean, now, maybe they still would have taken C.J. Stroud and not Bryce Young. But I don't care what anybody says. They're taking Bryce Young. Care what anybody says. That's the last I'm going to say on that. I'm not showing another tanking stat comment. I'm not talking about it anymore. Now, maybe later on, and I'll still blast you in October and November, especially in December too. I don't know. Just telling you, I'm not showing that anymore. Stop sending that to me. You're just pissing me off. You're damn right, Errol. Tanking's for losers. David +1 # said Chase Young sounded like he was ready to play last week. I hope so. I mean, oh, you mean last week? Yeah, he did. He sounded like he was ready to play. Mal says if you're talking about tanking, you're not a fan, you might want to find something else to do with your time. All right, Glenn's not going to be able to come on the show. So, Gabe, you're going to I'm going to have you back on in just a minute. You and I are going to talk LSU, which is fine. It is what it is. I'm not going to ban them, Daryl. There's no reason to ban people, but I'm not going to read their comments on this show. I don't know how many times we can say that. First of all, if you're talking about tanking in week 2, what sense did that possibly make? If you're talking about tanking in week 2, it shows what kind of fan you are. I love Randall because he's a regular. I know he's been gone for a while. I'm glad you're back. But that's, I tell it like it is. That's one thing I can't tolerate. I can't stand. I've been saying that since forever, but when I started the show, I probably said it in the who knows what episode. I probably said it in episode. I didn't say it in September 21 because they didn't super stink until later in the year that year. But I'm sure I said it in 21 on an audio pod somewhere. Rob says, can they win if they give it to Kamara 15 to 20 times and Miller maybe 10 to 12? He didn't look that bad. I actually thought Kendra Miller looked decent. Should have given him a few more. I agree. Yeah, so, Rob, I'm completely cool with that. Give it to him 20 times. Give Kamara the ball 20. The point is, you got to run the football, first off. You got to run the football. Who that daddy? You're right. Tanking's a sin. Earl says, I'll have an early pick anyway. No need to tank. You just don't need to lose on purpose. Okay, real quick before we switch slides, Gabe, you ready? I'm gonna bring Gabe in here. You said that the Texans did tank. You're gonna take Glenn Gilbert's spot this morning. You said the Texans did tank.
Yeah,
I thought. What's his name? Not Cutcliffe. What's that? The Culley. Now, what's the coach of the former?
You don't hire David Culley if you're trying to win.
Oh, and then Lovey won that last game on purpose.
Yeah, because you knew he was getting canned either way.
All right, let's talk about LSU a little bit. I want to move on.
Well, hold on.
Go ahead.
I do want to stick up. I do want to stick up for Randall. To some of these comments, people are saying that if you want your team to tank, you're not a fan, and that's just completely wrong. That is completely and utterly wrong.
You're a delusional fan.
And hope your team. No, you're not. No, you're not.
You're a delusional fan. If you think losing on purpose helps you in any way.
That's not true.
Oh, it's
not true at all.
We can debate it till the cows come home.
I think people who want to tank aren't rooting for the team to lose for the sake of rooting for their team to lose. And that's the common misconception.
They're rooting for their team to lose.
They are rooting for their team to lose in the short term to better the prospects in the long term.
It rarely, and I mean rarely ever benefits a team to move up higher in a draft spot. Rarely. I've proven this by records over we've shown the records. Who did?
The Astros.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm talking about football. And second off, I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that, especially in baseball draft where there's like 176 rounds. I mean, anyway.
Yeah, and if you go look at all of the guys who were the core of all of that, other than Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, Kyle Tucker, Carlos Correa, all top 5 picks.
Yeah,
they got them because they tanked.
No, I mean they still could have won more. They still could have tried to win more games. They would have won 5 more games. There's still a good chance they would have got those same guys.
They still tanked to get those better players.
They didn't
That's
tank.
All I'm saying. Tanking.
I don't think they lost. Well, I don't know. The other Astros, maybe they did lose on purpose. They're idiots. That's a whole different story.
They did. I mean, it was they had 3 straight 100-loss seasons. They were doing it on purpose.
All right.
Tanking. Okay, here's the thing. Tanking does not always work. You and I completely agree on that. However, I understand people wanting to tank in order to get better and rebuild. Tanking, the only difference between tanking and rebuilding is the verbiage. That's the only difference. Some people, I mean, you and I both sat here on the Derek Carr retirement show and said that this is a rebuild. Right?
Yeah. It is a rebuild.
Whether or not you were willing to embrace it was the difference between whether or not you hated tanking or not.
It's definitely a rebuild. That doesn't change.
It's only the verbiage. That's the only difference.
No, it's not the verbiage. Tanking means you're losing on purpose. That's not verbiage. That's asininity.
I mean, it is also stripping down the entire roster. The Saints have not. The Saints are not tanking. Let's say that.
Mm-hmm.
They are not losing on purpose. Mickey Loomis will never tank, I don't think.
I agree. So it's a moot point.
They're in a heavy rebuild. Which I still agree. I think
to me, a heavy rebuild is okay, well. We're not going to talk about
my stance.
Get your last words on tanking up because we're never going to talk about this again, I promise you.
I mean, that's the reason I was so puzzled by the Vele signing or trading for Vele, because those draft picks are much more valuable than a guy who is going to give you 1 catch for 13 yards on Sundays.
Well, I disagree. So he had 40-something catches last year, a 4th-round pick.
1 catch for 13 yards on Sundays.
It was he just got here, and it was his first game. I mean, if he would have had 7 catches for 64 yards, who gives a shit?
4 years down the line, New Orleans Saints are completely different. I'll be with this team making an impact.
How do you know?
I'm just going out on a limb.
Oh, okay.
You go out on sometimes with your predictions. You said a few months ago Caleb Williams would be out of the league in 3 years. How do you know? I'm just going out on a limb. I'm making a prediction. Vele will not.
That's not the way you.
That's not the way you presented it.
Okay. Yeah. No, I said 3 to 5 years. By the way.
Okay. And I will say in 3 to 5 years, Vele will. I would be willing to bet that he is not registered 1,000-yard season in that span.
Who cares? You don't need to be a 1,000-yard receiver to be worth a 4th-round draft pick. You don't have to have 1,000 yards in a season.
I think those picks are more valuable than anything that he will do.
1,000-yard seasons don't just people just get 1,000-yard seasons. That's ridiculous.
No, but you have to have 1,000 yards to truly be an impact receiver, I believe.
My ass. You don't have to be a 1,000-yard receiver to be an impact player. You could easily have 600 yards and be an impact player. That doesn't mean you're going out there and catching 8 passes for 90 yards every damn game. You don't have to do this. You do that.
I don't think you give up multiple picks for a guy who is
A 7th round pick doesn't even count. Who gives a rat's ass about a 7th round pick?
And I think a 4th.
We've been through this. I told you the stats. I don't remember exactly what they were, but a 4th round pick, 25% of 4th round picks are still in the league 3 years after they were drafted. 50% are gone after their first year.
But
so who gives a damn? You're talking about a guy who is now in his second year who's already outperformed most 4th round picks.
Because here's the thing: when the Saints, who
I can't believe we're wasting time talking about Bailey.
We have established this. Mickey Loomis loves to move up in the draft, correct?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And if you have, and they are in line to get a compensatory 4th round pick next year.
If they do what you think they're going to do, they don't have to move up.
Put them at 3 4th round picks. And those can be packaged to move up to get better players.
Yeah, but you're also talking exactly what Daryl says. Let's get the math straight. Vele's on a 7th round contract for the next 3 years.
And he's playing like a 7th round player.
No, he's not. A 7th round player doesn't play, period. Hardly ever does a 7th round player make a football team and actually play in a month that doesn't begin with A.
Let's see who has a better season, Isaac Tesla for the Lions or Vele for the Saints. I would be willing to bet it's the former, who was an undrafted.
Okay, you're picking like it's going out and you found the 4-leaf clover. Good for you. I mean, I'm
finding an example.
I mean, they've already gotten it. Vele's already outperformed most 4th round draft picks, and again, it's just like Joseph Long said, he has the body type. He fit a need.
If he has the body type you need, why did he only have 1 catch on Sunday?
Because it was his first game. He's only been here for 3 freaking weeks.
He's still a receiver.
Maybe even less than that. Who cares? He'll get out there. Trust me. By the end of the season, he'll have 40
And I bet he
catches.
has less than 500 yards this season.
All right, I'll make a bet with. Okay, let's put the over/under on 500 yards. I will bet that he has over 500 yards. Okay,
he has under.
Okay, I don't know. We'll come up with the terms of this bet right now. And actually, you're getting, because I guarantee you, if you put this up there, the over/under would probably be like 425. But I'll give you 75 yards. I think he's actually going to play a significant. Now you're talking about no quarterbacks throwing to him, and I still think he's going to have over 500 yards.
Okay.
So I mean, there you go. 20 days ago. Got here 20 days ago.
He's not a rookie, Rich. He's already played a year in the league.
That's the point. I mean, anyway. I don't know why we're wasting time talking about this. That's just it all stems from
think,
I mean, this is an asinine theory to go along with asinine tanking.
I think you guys are being way too harsh on people who want to tank, because at the end of the day, everyone wants the same things for the Saints. They want this team to be a stable contender in the NFL, which they are not, and they have not been for a while.
That doesn't mean
we had to
tell you this one last time.
Last year.
This is the last thing I'm going to say on this. The absolute last thing I'm going to say on this, and then we're moving on. Losing, I don't care why, what verbiage you use, how you use it, what you mean when you use it, doesn't make a difference. To me, if you think tanking is a good idea, you're a flat-out moron, number one. And number two, losing, which should be number one, losing does nothing but make you a loser and will always make you a loser. And that's the last thing.
I would rather lose on purpose.
I don't care. I want to move on. I want to move on. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
A lot.
We're moving on. I want to talk about LSU. And again, this was supposed to be the focus of the show anyway. And we've now spent way too much time on Saints. Glenn couldn't make it on the show. He had issues. I'm not sure exactly what was going on, but he was clicking on the link and he was not going where he was where it was directing. So, and anyway, Glenn Gilbo will not be on the show. He will not be the 33rd guest on the show since we started this on the reboot on March 1st, 2024. So with that being said, your thoughts on Florida coming in, and we talked about this briefly on Monday, and I want to expand on this just a little bit, but Florida coming to town, I know it's a lot of people laugh when teams they don't like, and I mean, people just don't like Florida. And especially older people like me who, yeah. But if you're like me, you remember the days when Steve Spurrier, and even before Steve Spurrier, and Florida was always a thorn in LSU's ass, and a lot of people's ass for that matter. But I think it's funny when Florida loses to a team like USF as they did last week. However, I am never a fan of a team that LSU has to play the next week when they lose a game like that, because to me, it's going to give them, they'll be at the highest focus they could possibly be this week. Not to say that, okay, if they would have won that game, they'd be a worse team or whatever this week. But I'm just saying, they theoretically, if LSU makes them look really bad, I don't think it's out of the question that Billy Napier loses his job in September.
There are multiple college football pundits who are on record saying that if they come out and LSU wins by double digits, they could see Billy Napier getting tarmacked.
Yep.
Left on the tarmac like Lane Kiffin did.
like Arthur Smith did after that Saints game a few years ago.
Yeah, there are, and I wouldn't put it past him, because here's the thing, and I know you to hit on your earlier point. You said you don't like when teams lose because it gives their team a spark. Here's the thing: how many times does Billy Napier have to be on the hot seat for this team to show some resilience and say, we don't want this guy to get fired?
That's why it doesn't even matter.
I think that loss to South Florida was the final nail in his coffin. I really do.
Might have been.
I just don't. I think it showed us that what we saw toward the end of last year was more of a fluke than anything else. I like Billy Napier. He's a good guy. Seems like a good coach. I just think he's in over his head at Florida, and I think it's 100% Florida's fault, because
I agree.
You gambled when you got rid of Dan Mullen, and things have only gotten worse since then.
Speaking of Dan Mullen, there's something I read in Glenn Gilbo's column from yesterday, I guess, that I didn't even realize. I was trying to do some prep for the show. And I did not realize this, but Doug Nussmeier was fired by Dan Mullen, and Nussmeier was working at Florida as the OC when I can't remember who the coach was, got fired in 2015 or 2014 or 2015, whatever. Garrett Nuss. That
probably would have been Jim McElwain.
I think that is who it was. So he got fired, and then Dan Mullen took over, and 2 days after he took over, I mean, that's not unusual. I mean, a coach is going to fire his OC quite often. Mm-hmm. But Garrett Nussmeier was 15 years old, and he was talking about how he just doesn't like Florida. Well, he has a reason besides that to not like Florida anyway. As I show this on the screen, I got the last 15 meetings, and you see that big old long list, and this goes from most recent to last. If you can't see the screen, it's the last 15 times LSU has played Florida. And heading into last year, LSU had won 5 in a row, then lost last year in Gainesville. And, so Garrett Nussmeier has reasons to dislike Florida.
Yeah, it was actually 14 was Will Muschamp. He got fired. DJ Durkin coached one game, and it was Jim McElwain in 2015.
Yeah. Okay. So, but just talk about Nussmeier. I mean, I tell you what, he's going to be, I think, as much as Florida's going to be fired up to try to save, not necessarily to save Napier, but just uber focused after last week's embarrassment. I think quietly, Garrett Nussmeier is going to be uber focused because he lost to him last year and he hates him anyway.
I mean, the graphic kind of shows this, so this seems like an obvious statement, but for those listening, I'll say this. Florida's win over LSU last year was a statistical outlier.
Mm-hmm.
LSU was a dead team walking into that game last year. They were on the back of 2 straight humiliating losses to A&M and Alabama. This is just this team, the mentality of this team, the talent on this team, they're so much different than last year's. And yeah, I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to come into this game ready.
And also, Gabe, last year, I know you and I remember, for those who don't remember, the loss to Florida last year was, it wasn't just the low point of last season. It might be the low point of Brian Kelly's career. It was the low point, certainly, of Garrett Nussmeier's short career, because it was the 3rd loss in a row. And it basically, with any little tiny inkling of a shot LSU still had to get in the college football playoff, if they had any shot at all, it was definitely wiped away then. But not only that, I mean, people were if you remember, you go back to that time, and we were talking about it here. I mean, people were just calling for Brian Kelly's scalp when they lost that 3rd game in a row. You can't lose 3 games in a row. And so I think that may be on their minds. And I don't want to say revenge, but don't get me wrong. I guarantee you there have been posting of this score in the LSU locker room, and whatever else they can post up trying to. If anything else, Brian Kelly's good at firing them up.
I was gonna say I don't know if it has been because Brian Kelly this year seems very hyper focused on just going 1-0 and winning the.
Well, he was hyper focused on 1-0. They had the shirts.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they're going to come out with it. So I don't think they want to look back at all. I think Brian Kelly made that a point of emphasis in the offseason. So while it may stick in players' heads, I don't think it's something they're really talking about this week.
You know what's also interesting? If you look at the chart, and again, if you can't see it, I apologize, so I'll talk about it. But it's the last 15 games, LSU versus Florida there. LSU is 11-4 in those last 15 games. And if you look at the games that Florida has won in there, they won in last year 27-16. They won in 18, 27-19. They won in 16, 16-10. They won in 12, 14-6. But if you look at a vast majority of the games that LSU has won, they've all been high-flying games, 52-35. 45-35, 49-42, 37-34, 42-28. You go back to 15, they won 35-28. Year before that, 30-27, 41-11 and 11, 33-29. So LSU, that's why I know LSU's defense has been fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But something tells me this game is going to be a little bit more high flying. And I'm not willing to make I'm not going to give a spoiler alert, but I think I'm leaning towards an over in this game. I think there are going to be more points scored overall. And even though Florida's offense has struggled, it's just something about this game when LSU wins, there's hyper focused on their offense. I think it's going to be high scoring a little bit.
Do you want to run back the U versus UBN and I on Friday? Because UBN's already hinted at his pick. I've got my pick ready for this game, and then you just hinted at yours, and it's shaping up to be that. I'm with UBN. I like the under in this game.
Okay.
Mostly because I don't think Florida is going to be able to move the ball very much on this defense. I'm also worried about LSU's offense still. They haven't looked great, as I alluded to on Monday. So, yeah, I like the under in this game.
Very understandable why you would make that pick, but I think a lot of people are going to be on the under. We've seen this number actually tick down. We've seen the spread tick down. The spread was 9.5. This again, I told you at the beginning of the show that all three teams in our that we talk about here, Saints, LSU, and Tulane, all the lines have changed, and I haven't got to Tulane yet, but all the lines have changed, and LSU has gone from a 9.5 point favorite to a 7.5 point favorite. So I think there are a lot of people out there that are thinking what I was talking about and the revenge. A lot of people may be thinking what Gabe and UBN are talking about and riding the under train. I just tell you, I think I'm going to go the other way. Vegas doesn't lose often.
To give you some numbers, we're using different books, but the numbers are virtually the same. BetMGM, who makes their handles very public, it's the only sportsbook I know that does so. 62% of the bets on the spread at 7.5 are toward LSU, and 56% of the bets at the total at 48.5 are on the over. So, if anything, I could see those lines reverting back to what they were earlier in the week, or at least closer to.
Yeah. To go along with your point about LSU struggling a little bit on offense last week, well, really, I guess Clemson too, but that's not as concerning because it's Clemson.
No.
Here's one of my big questions that I was going to have for Glenn, and I'll ask it to you. The run game, we've talked about this. They clearly need someone other than Caden Durham to step up. Can 100%. It be Harlem Berry? And we only saw the one good run, but I found it interesting reading a story. I think Reed Darcy wrote it on NOLA.com. When they asked Brian Kelly about does Harlem Berry get more opportunities, Brian Kelly's response was, quote, he required a conversation, which means that after the game was over, why aren't we playing this guy more? I think you see more of Harlem Berry. Your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, Caleb Jackson is all but guaranteed to transfer after this year.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's been evident after the last two seasons. I mean, if you go by, he hasn't had double-digit carries in a game since his freshman year against Grambling. He's got 4 total carries this year, and he's not done anything with them. Literally, he's done nothing with him. He's got net zero yards through those 4 carries. So I think, Harlem Berry has shown promise. I think this is a player that the program's really excited about. So I think absolutely, we've heard
you talk about 5-star recruit.
Yeah. One of the best, if not the best running back recruits in the country. And, Durham, he's been a little banged up. I believe it was Reed Darcy, or it was one of the Advocate guys reported that Caden Durham was getting back healthy. So I think a mix of him getting healthy and Harlem Berry getting thrown in as well. I think you're going to see an emphasis on running the ball, or at least trying to run the ball, because the reality is if LSU doesn't get their running game going before the heart of SEC play, they could be in trouble again.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that probably on Friday. Got one more LSU question directed towards you, but first, while you're here, I'll let you play a part of this. We told you earlier we will let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth, right? Well, maybe it's time to sell. Maybe you don't know how to get started. Maybe you need to find someone to help you figure out the answer. That could be Evangeline Securities. You need to reach out to them. How do they do it? Well, they have a complimentary valuation of your company. If you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians, Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, the folks at Evangeline, they'll begin an extensive auction process from established private equity funds from around the entire world, the whole globe. They're going to maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities, well, they're the top producer on that platform. There are very few companies like them in this area, and none with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed. They're ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. It ain't LSU's offense. It ain't LSU's defense. And it ain't whether the Saints should tank. What is really important, Gabe Henderson?
I mean, the LSU offense is important, but it pales in comparison to the importance of the rest of your life.
Absolutely true. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. That is the smartest thing you have said in this entire show thus far. All right. Before we move on, because I do want to talk Tulane for like 3 minutes. I want to talk about Thursday Night Football for 3 minutes before we go back to the Saints and close out the show. But is this defense really as good as we've seen? Are they as? I mean, I don't know. I know it's only 2 games, but what I've seen, man, and what Blake Baker has been able to do, and Mansour Delane, who was on the cover, was on our title slide today, and I'll show it again. I'm really fired about him. Just this entire defense and Harold Perkins, and is this defense really that good?
Yeah, I really.
They're fun.
This is the first time. This is the time since 2016, and I don't want to compare them to the 2016 because the 2016 defense. Alongside the 2011 defense are 2 of the best collegiate defenses I've ever seen. So don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing them to that, but this is the most complete seen from LSU since 2016 at all 3 levels. They not only are talented at all 3 levels, they're doing their job. They've got depth as well, and that's so important. So yeah, I think agree. I'm not exaggerating when I say this could be one of the best defenses in the country this year.
Yep. UBN says he'll never stop thinking Bryce Underwood. So no doubt about it. All right. We will make our official predictions on LSU on Friday and our Pick'em show. That's when we tell you what our final scores are going to be. Gabe will tell you what his final score is. Zach will do it as well. UBN will ask him for a prediction. Who knows? Maybe it's one of their best bets. I will tell you what my final score would be. All right. Time to move on. I do want to talk just briefly. I don't mean to shun Tulane in this show here today, but look, this line changed drastically. It was 3.5. Tulane was a 3.5-point favorite on Monday. It has dropped all the way to pick'em. In fact, Duke on the money line is actually a slight favorite there, -112. Tulane -108. What makes a line draft change that much without an injury?
I think there was a stat going around, or there was a chart going around on Twitter a few days ago, and it's the typical, and I I don't remember who posts graphic every week. It's the "Did this team really get beat that bad?" graphic, and it showed us that Duke drastically underperformed against Illinois in terms of the output. I don't think that score was indicative of how close that game was for a lot of. I think that, as well as the people love to bet narratives, and the Derry and Mensa revenge narrative is going to be a big one. I think that it's the public narrative is really what I think has shifted this line. And then I also just know if people are completely sold on Tulane's performance after what they did at South Alabama. So I think this one is really just people taking the Power 4 team plus the points.
Yep. Again, I don't want to give a spoiler alert. I just think that that is a crazy move. I get it. Duke's in the ACC. So, I mean, just automatically, Gabe, Duke is thought of as this team that's already, they're from the Power 4. You know, if they're what and what, then Duke's got the edge because they're a Power 4 team. And I just don't think that makes a whole ton of difference in this game. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And it's not going to affect the way that I pick it.
Talent level on these teams is a lot closer than actually some books still have Tulane as a favorite, and even just looking at BetMGM, 55% of people are still betting Tulane. So I think it shows that not the entire public is so narrative driven. So
right.
I think,
well, usually when a line moves like this, it's because big money made it move more times than not.
Yeah. Exactly.
Charles says, why don't we try to get we've had Matt Moscone on the show many times, Charles. We will definitely have Matt on again before too long. He's been on this show probably 5 times easily. Daryl is asking a question. Do you ever play a 2-team 6-point? He's asking both of us. Do we play 2-team 6-point teasers on 2 teams in the same game? Even money. Example, Cardinals -1.5. Saints plus 12.5. Saints have covered this many times in the past. Do you ever do that?
Nope. That's partly because I can't bet. No. I have never even thought to do that. I would never think of doing that. I am fully out on teasers.
So am I. And I used to be a big teaser guy.
Yeah, we both did during the Bayou Bets days, and sportsbooks have
jacked that up.
That they're offering now are significantly worse. Yeah,
I stay away from 25. Yeah, Daryl, I got to be honest. First of all, I'm with Gabe on exactly what he just said. I don't really play teasers anymore because they have jacked up the charge absurdly because they kind of suckered people in when I'm just going to tell you straight up, the books they're a scam. I mean, unless you got to find the value. Okay. But a lot of times with these apps, they're a scam. And they have got people loving on the teasers, and I'm not spending $125 to get a teaser. It's just not, the value isn't there worth it. And in this case, even if it were -110 like it was in the old days, I would never take a teaser from the same game because you're trying to squeeze a ping pong ball into the size of a needle hole. You can't do that.
You might actually I can almost guarantee you would be better playing the winning alternate spread.
Yeah.
So you could take a team to win by X amount.
Yeah, you're absolutely you're getting better value on an alt spread for sure. Don't you lose on a push? It depends. You lose on a push. Certain books you do, some you don't. You have to look at their rules. I know with the ones that I used to do, you would not lose on a push. However, again, some books you do lose on a push, and some you don't. You just have to look at if you want to play that. You have to look. But again,
a lot of them will just pay out significantly worse odds for the one leg. So it's essentially playing like an alternate spread.
Most books, if you lose, most books, if you tie, if you push, if you have a push and a win, it's a push. If you have a push and a loss, it's always a loss. It doesn't matter. I mean, you lost. So if you have a push and a push, which is extremely rare, I don't know what the answer is. But more time, I think most books, if you have a push and a win, it's a push. I believe that's the way that it is. Again, so we'll talk more about this line. I'm interested to see where it goes. If it's changed that much since Monday, it may change again on Friday. And Daryl, you appreciate the advice. So, again, excuse me, Gabe and I go back to Verklempt. Talk about it amongst yourselves. Yeah. Back to our Bayou Bets days. So anyway. All right. Before we go, I do want to start doing this every week. It's a little later than I wanted to do it, but this is going to be the last thing you and I talk about today. If you want to get final Saints comments, now is the time to do so, because I am going to close out with the Saints after Gabe goes off here. But Thursday night football, we don't have a show tomorrow, so we're doing it on Wednesday. I forgot we used to do this on Thursday. Well, we don't have a Thursday show anymore. So your thoughts on what I think is one of the better matchups. I'm a little down on the Commanders this year as a whole. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, I was higher on Green Bay as a whole. So that has me leaning Green Bay, but I think this is a huge litmus test for both of these teams.
100%. This is a really tough one. When I originally saw this matchup, my mind immediately went to the over. But
yeah,
I don't think 48.5 is a good number. So what I ended up going with was Green Bay minus 3.5. And I used the recent betting trends in an article that I published on Sportsbook Review this morning to preview this matchup. And so I wrote Jordan Love is 11-7 against the spread at home in his 2+ seasons as a starter. Okay. Whereas the Commanders last year were 3-4-1 against the spread away from home. So I think Jordan Love, I think he's got a more complete team behind him than Jaden Daniels. And I'm just not convinced with the Commanders after week 1. They played the Giants. They won 21-6. They did what they were supposed to. But Green Bay really came out and impressed me. So I lean Green Bay in this one, but I think it's going to be a fun game.
I think the Green Bay, still verklempt. I think the Green Bay pass rush is going to get in there and give Jaden Daniels a little trouble. I am actually I wouldn't say this would be one of my best bets, but I do like the Packers significantly at minus 3.5. I don't usually like to give 3.5. That hook usually bothers me, but 3.5 isn't as big of a deal as it used to be with all the weird combinations, and you see scorigamis all the time now. And so it's not as big of a deal as it used to be to me, but 3.5, it is significant. But I just think the Packers win this game by a touchdown or more. Again, I think Jaden Daniels is going to have his issues. Is little Bill McCrory going to be able to get in the end zone again? I thought that was kind of funny last week. Obviously, Terry McLaurin played a big role in the Commanders game last week too, as well. I'm sure the Commanders are glad to have him back. I just don't think they have enough. I know this sounds crazy because as good as their offense is with Jaden Daniels, I don't think they have enough to stifle Green Bay as much as they're gonna have to stifle them. I like the minus 3.5. Actually, kind of like the under. Not a number I will play. It's not a number I'm gonna play, but I think Green Bay wins by a touchdown here or so.
So 3 of their last 5 meetings have gone under.
Okay. Final thoughts here this morning. Thanks for filling in for Glenn. Every now and then, you and I have been doing this long enough, and about once every 4 to 6 months, we have a guest hiccup. And it's the cool thing is, it used to be a big deal when we'd have a guest. We'd start, not you as much as me, maybe panic. Well, what are we going to do without it? Now we just talk like we always do. It's no big deal. Yep. So I appreciate you filling in. Appreciate you filling in there, and I'm going to see you again on Friday. So
anytime, looking forward to it.
Pick 'em. Have you narrowed it down? I'm not going to ask you. Obviously, I don't want to give spoiler alerts, but do you know what your picks are for Friday yet? Or you're still narrowing
my 3
them
picks down? Typed out to you, and I was actually going to ask you when the earliest acceptable time would be to send them to you in case of line changes.
Right after you send me chapters, you can send them whenever as you want.
Done.
No. So if the lines change, then I'll reach out and we'll go from there. All right, Gabe Henderson, I will see you on Friday.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody. A couple more Saints comments here. I'm going to put the banner up there. Please subscribe to the Dattitude YouTube page if you haven't done so already. I thank you, Who Dat Daddy, for coming on. Robbo says Pittsburgh is the dark horse. Wait till November. You know, every time I count Pittsburgh out, I kick myself because I think Mike Tomlin is that big of good of a coach. I mean, he really is. I mean, Mike Tomlin is just that phenomenal of a coach. So, but I can't stand Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to doom that. I know he was great, but he was fired up to play the Jets. To me, what happens when he's not fired up? You know, Robbo? So, I don't know. Earl's Pick says 27-21 Packers. Charles Manga says Washington 27, Packers 21. Okay. You're definitely an outlier there. David +1. You know what? Maybe we should start making this a Wednesday segment. I'm glad you asked me this. Gabe, let's start doing this. Next Wednesday, remind me. Well, I'll put this in the I'll make a slide for this. Survivor picks. You know, I got to be honest. Normally, I have my pick by now, but I don't have mine this week. You know what? Let's go to the schedule. NFL week. You know, you like how I do? You could never used to do this on live TV. Now you can do whatever the hell you want. Let's see. Week 2 schedule here for Survivor. Now, I have to tell you, David, I'm a little bit different than other people. The one that I'm in, you can buy back in after up all the way through week 3. So my thinking process on Survivor in the first 3 weeks is different than most people, okay? Because I'm going to go and take more of a risk. I'm going to take a team that I'm probably not going to take later. Like last week, you know, just to throw it out there, I have 5 picks. I took 2 Arizonas. I don't usually take the same team twice, but I'm like, okay. And now in hindsight, I kind of wish I would have taken 5 Arizonas. And if I'd have lost, I just bought them all back in, right? But I didn't. I took 2 Arizonas. I took Denver because Denver's got a tough schedule and see me taking them a whole lot. I took the Jaguars last week. That worked out. And then what didn't work out for me, and I will buy back in with this pick, is I took New England. I wouldn't hardly ever take New England. So it depends on what kind of league you're in. Is it a survivor pool where you have to make 20? Some people have to make 20 picks throughout a year, and they have to go all the way to the end. And so it just kind of depends. But this week, just kind of glancing at the sheet, I'll tell you that the ones that I like Dallas over the Giants this week. I don't love picking a rivalry game all that much, but I think Dallas bounces back. I don't think the Giants can be able to stop the Cowboys. It is in Dallas. I hardly ever take road teams, but I do like the Rams at the Titans. And I can tell you my goal. I have some golden rules. I know a lot of people are going to go out there and want to take the Bills. I would never take the Bills this week. I'm not taking Buffalo on the road. The Bills have been known to lay eggs. I'm not taking the Bills in a division matchup. I never take a division road team in a knockout pool. I can't say never, but hardly ever. And I'm certainly not there. I know you think that's a little weird. You can't take the Niners now because we don't know who's playing quarterback right now. The Ravens are a safe pick again at home against the Browns, but do you want to use the Ravens this early? If you're in a buyback survivor, do not use the Ravens this week. If you're not in a buyback and you want to burn them, that's up to you. I mean, that's pretty close to a sure thing. I like the Lions against the Bears, but again, another division game. I don't see the Lions going 0-2. And I do see the Bears going 0-2. Interesting stat that I would probably use this week. Also talking about Survivor, a stat that a guy that I listen to, I'll give him credit. This is, I'm going to use his stat, Steve Fezzik, which you can find all over X. He's one of the fantastic handicappers on this planet. But he has a stat. I can't remember exactly what the number is, but a team that is 0-1 against a 1-0 team. So 0-1 versus 1-0, which actually the Saints fit into. Overwhelmingly, it's something like 65 to 35% cover the spread. Okay. So an 0-1 against a 1-0 team, way more than not, like almost a 2-to-1 clip covers the spread. And it's also similar, not exactly the same way when you're talking about 0-1 against 1-0. Lions 0-1, and I know the Bears are 0-1. But Lions at home against the Bears, I like Detroit there. Again, I don't know if that's one I would take in a buyback. I probably wouldn't. I also like the Cardinals this week. The Cardinals are playing the Panthers in Arizona. Panthers looked terrible last week. I know we don't want overreaction Monday or now overreaction on Wednesday. I like the Cardinals. Not touching Chiefs, Eagles, obviously. Not touching Vikings, Falcons. Not touching Texans, Bucks. And I'm not touching Raiders, Chargers because that's if I were to take anyone, it'd be the Chargers in the division game. So anyway, there you go. I hope that's a great explanation, and we will start working knockout pools into this thing. Gabe says he likes Dallas this week for Survivor. I mean, it's interesting. Again, can't touch the Niners. I mean, maybe if you find out Brock Purdy's going to play. But again, the Niners have the easiest schedule in the NFL, technically. If you go by last year's records, I probably would wait to take the Niners anyway. Probably would not take them this week. All right, that is going to be just about doing it. Robbo says, God bless to me and mine. Your wife of 59 years has dementia, is living hell. I'm so sorry to hear that. Robbo, I will tell you this. Dementia has definitely hit my family along the way, and I can understand what you're going through. My father-in-law passed away a few years ago. He was just, it literally killed him. So I've been through that. I had my own grandparents go through that. So yeah, man, it was tough. I hear you, and God bless your wife. And thank you very much. I've been married for, 17 years. We've been together for 20. And as I get older, and you start thinking about things like that. So yeah, prayers to you, my friend. Chad Gage, over under Saints points 13. I don't know, man. I'm going to say over, and Gabe says over. I'm going to say over, but just slightly. I'm going to say they get to 17. I don't think they get to 20. I don't know. Ask me again on Friday. I'll get, because Friday I will actually have a final score for you. I'm going to go through some stats as I do on I spend a lot of time on Thursday just going through stats as before I make my picks in my final. I don't have enough time to do it before then. So I'll make my Survivor picks and all my final scores for Saints, LSU, and Tulane. We'll all have that on Friday. So ask me again Friday. They got to get, to me, I'm with UBN. I think they got to get to at least 17. I don't think there's any way, as good as this defense played last week, you're not going to hold, even with Mac Jones. I just don't think you hold this Niners team under 17 points. Darryl says he's been married 131 years. He means 31. I get it, my man. I get it completely. All right. Sorry we couldn't get Glenn Guilbeau on the show. Technical difficulties. It happens, like I said, about once every six. I don't know, Gabe. Well, I think we've only had, 2 other instances where we couldn't get a guest on. There was one time where I actually had to cut the show off because I was having my own internet issues. That was with Koki, or it was with someone with LSU. No, it was Pels. It was Christian Clark. That was over a year ago. Christian doesn't even work for us anymore. So that was a while ago. That's the only, knock on wood, the only time instance I've had. So it happens every now and then. In this virtual world that we live in, you're going to have issues where stuff doesn't happen right. And you know what? The good shows find a way to move on, and you don't even really hardly notice the hiccup. And thanks to Gabe for helping me out today, and we didn't even notice the hiccup. We had a little disagreement, but, we haven't had a good one in a while. I mean, you got to get some dander up every now and then. Damn it. You got to have fun with it. I love when Nick Braden will text me. He goes, sometimes you sound like you hate Gabe. I'm like, no, I love Gabe. It's like my little brother sometimes that I want to beat the ever-loving crap out of every now and then. He's a lot like my know-it-all. Not completely. He's a lot like my know-it-all son. Sometimes you're like, oh, man, that's another thing I never got to. And I don't want to go on up the tangent because I'm getting ready to go bye-bye. But if you asked my son Josh Allen is the greatest player who's ever played football. Didn't hear from him all night Sunday night. Then I got bombarded. Of course, I got bombarded with text. Didn't want to talk about him before then, but oh my God. I hate, man, if you're going to talk crap when your team is not doing what it's supposed to do. You got to do both. You can't just talk crap when they're doing well. I was like, well, my boy's not doing it. Get out of here with that crap. Anyway, Gabe doesn't do that. Gabe's always Texans guy through and through. He doesn't brag too much. CJ can have the best day on the planet. He doesn't go off too much on him. So he does kind of crap on Nuss a little bit. That's all right. A lot of people do. We'll see what happens on Saturday. And we'll see what happens on Friday because that is our next show. It's going to wrap it up for us on Wednesday. Pick 'em Friday. It's coming up. We hope you can join us. Zach will be here. Gabe will be here. I promise you. Those two guys are going to be here. You know what? UBN's going to be here. I can promise you the gang will all be here on Friday. It's going to be another fun pick 'em show. And I'm sure UBN can't wait to show the standings. Gabe probably wishes we don't. Too bad. I don't know about Zach. I forgot what he said. So we'll see you then. A reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page if you haven't already done so. In fact, I make this slide and half the time I don't even show it. So there it is. I forgot. That's our next live show. Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time. You know when it is. Subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go in the air. Give us a thumbs up. We'd give you one. Come on, man. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. And find a replay of the show on NOLA.com/sports. You can find me on bet.nola.com. You can find our insiders. See, I should write this in the script because half the time I have brain farts. You can find our Saints insiders on NOLA.com/Saints. You can find Gabe Henderson on sportsbookreview.com. And you can find us all here on Friday. And until then, take it easy, my friends.